We're super excited to introduce Innovative Orchestrator, the first AI super agent for omnichannel advertising. We're bringing humans and AI agents together so that marketers can conduct a symphony across channels to reach their most valuable customers.
AI is not a matter of if, it's a matter of how and when, and we will help you solve that.
Hey everyone, I'm David Berkowitz, back with another edition of AI Insiders from AI Marketers Guild, part of the Marketecture family. And we're here with another special guest today, Mike Montague, Avenue9. I mean, anyone who puts human first in their, at the top of their LinkedIn bio, big fan of mine. I actually mentioned, by the way, just to give him a plug, I was at an event yesterday, Techonomy, New York, and I got to hang out with one of my idols, Douglas Rushkoff, and I told him, I said, your book, Team Human, is literally the most prominent book in my Zoom background, and I do this for a reason, because it's more important than ever. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of had a renaissance. He's like, they're like Gen Zers who are now talking about my book and they'd never seen it before. So anyway, highly recommend that. But I also recommend getting to spend some time with Mike Montague. Mike, how's it going?
Yeah, so great to be here. And those of you who don't know me or my show, I host the Human First AI Marketing podcast. And David was a guest. It recently came out with his episode a couple of weeks ago. So you can go check out our conversation there if you want more of what happens today. But my philosophy in that human first take goes all the way back to LinkedIn. My first book was picked up by LinkedIn Sales Solutions and international sales training company called Sandler. It did like 80,000 copies or something. Talking about how salespeople can use LinkedIn without being like pushy marketers, spammers, and just adding 1,000 people and hope somebody buys from them. So I've kind of been on this kick for a long time. And when AI came out, I said, oh, this is even bigger. This is the same thing. But now those LinkedIn spammy salespeople that I was talking to 15 years ago, now they can do this at scale with AI agents to thousands of people. And this is going to be a mess if we don't take a human first approach. So I went all in on this a little over a year ago and have been doing a deep dive really on how do we understand how to use AI in a way that we do the thinking first as humans. We put the leadership first, we put our employees first, and we put our customers first in our execution. And that's what I'm excited to talk about.
Pretty cool. Well, I'm curious to hear more.
So just keep going on that. And also, there's one caveat. Whenever I talk to a group of people, I like to let you know that I started my career as a karaoke DJ and club DJ, and I entertained 500 drunk people like 4 or 5 times a week for several years. So you can't throw me off my game. If you have any questions, you can unmute, you can shout out, you can type it in the chat. We'll pay attention to that. And I know what I'm going to talk about today, but I don't have a rehearsed speech or presentation.
And sometimes I forget to mention, which I should, since not everyone joins every week, is that I always call these community conversations and not webinars. I usually like turn off the sound of a webinar like 5 minutes after I join, and then just maybe politely leave it in the background. But I like conversations a little bit more, and this is a crew where you will get some questions and thoughts on this. So I'm excited to hear your take on what scalable stories are. And even frankly, I'm like, what's changed since talking with you a few weeks ago?
First, Earl wants no scrubs. No, he's a Spice Girls fan. That's a good go-to karaoke song. I think that the scalable stories part here is important with AI. I've noticed what I call the concentrated orange juice theory. That if you take a weak prompt, if you take a 1-sentence prompt, like write a blog post for me, enter, it's going to take that and it's going to water it down. and it's going to try and stretch your one little micro idea into a full 800-word blog post, and it just doesn't work that well. It's amazing at what it does. I mean, it's better than any human could do. If you just said, write me a blog post about storytelling with AI, it'll write something, right? But it's not going to be that great, mostly because we're stretching and we're watering it down. Now, you can add more context to that, and the more concentrated you make your prompt, the better it will do. So if I give it a really meaty subject, like I want to write a storytelling blog post about AI tools for how to write screenplays, and I believe these 5 things are true, and these are the best AI tools, write that blog post. Now it has enough context to write something more interesting. But there's an even better way that I wanted to share with you guys today, which is AI is even better at the opposite, which is distilling some really watered down stories, conversations, information, and data from your business and distilling it into the concentrated orange juice that you can use for your marketing and make some really powerful stuff. So I think if there was a misconception that I would share today, is that most people are using AI to water down their ideas and their marketing, when what they could do is take all of their marketing and make it stronger with AI if you go the opposite direction. Does that make sense, David?
I think so, and I feel it too as someone who's like, yeah.
Can you give us an example? How would you do that?
Right. So what I do, and I'll just share out the 5 steps and we can talk more about them. But number 1 is you got to start with the story first, Karan. So if I interviewed the company's founder, the top salesperson, and your best client, let's just take those 3 in like a 30-minute to hour-long interview. And then I put those transcripts into AI and I said, tell me what this business is really about. What's the problem it solves? Who's it for? How does this company solve it better or differently than anybody else on the internet? AI will give us a really good answer for our marketing plan with all of that context. But I can't just, take those transcripts and post them out into the world. I need to do that processing. I need to boil it down to the concentrated stuff first. Then if I take that scalable story and I take it over and add some additional context of how am I going to tell this story? So step number 2 would be to kind of like identify the structure of the story after it comes out of AI. And I did the who's it for? What's it for? What are the 3 to 5 main points? What are the stories and examples I can pull from our business that make the point? Step 3 is, what do I need to do to change it into? Like today, I'm having a community conversation with, 20 plus people. That's different than me going on an hour-long podcast with one person or writing a blog post about this topic. So I need to add this context layer or the structure of what I want the output to be as step number 3. And then step number 4 is I can repurpose that into all of the other things. So I think most of you know now, and it's not very interesting to me anyway, maybe you don't know, that you don't just stop at that one piece in marketing. Just because I created this awesome white paper with my 5 steps to scalable stories doesn't mean anybody's going to go see it. I also need to make the other formats. I can use Google Notebook to create an audio podcast version of it. I can create a video presentation. I can create a Gamma slideshow presentation. I can create social graphics. I can create LinkedIn posts to share and write people about it. I can create the landing page from the story. And all of a sudden I've taken that structure of the story and I've multiplied it across many different formats to get the complete marketing plan that I want. And then step number 5 is integrating all of these tools, automating the process, and getting feedback from how those went to improve the story for next time we do it. So those are the 5 steps. I think the last one is the hardest one, and that's the last mile stuff that I know. David and others in AI talk about. I don't think we're quite there yet where this just all magically happens. There's a lot of human work at the end to review the outputs, to move between tools, to set up systems and processes and standard operating procedures for your employees on what to do with all this information that we collected.
Can I share a trick I do
Yeah.
in this context? So I have custom prompts. Like you said, context is really important. So I may go to a competitor's page and in my prompt, I define my own tool and then say, well, look at this and tell me what the differences are between our products. So it's always building using context of what is already there. Like you said, the more specific you are. And then the next step would be to take all of the different research on different competitions or articles, feed them all into a RAG. So now you have a much larger context, and then what can come out of it is way more useful.
Yeah, awesome. So if we look at this in depth, that's part of the story collection stuff that I do too, is you can collect competitor stories, you can collect client stories, you can collect all the data and marketing that you've ever used before and put those into the database for a custom GPT, and then start creating those instructions around what is the story, who's it for, what's it for. Problem aware stories are different than, solution aware stories. And I'm not familiar with this group, so I don't know how techie or marketing savvy everybody on the line is, but there's a lot of context that we can add into this. And I think that's the best part of AI, is that it can handle more data. And so again, people keep asking it to stretch rather than asking it to consolidate. So take all of this huge, massive amounts of context and give me the good, most relevant parts. I do this with my sales pitches, that if I was going to pitch David this morning, I would go into my ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my standard sales pitch. Tell me everything you know about David Berkowitz, his company, who's he solves, and customize my pitch for him. So add even more context and make my content stronger for this sales pitch. What are the top 5 questions I need to ask David when I meet with him later? And start getting more information from that context.
Can I use another trick that I think is really useful? Is to use synthetic audiences to verify what you're saying. Like just yesterday, one of the members of this group, she sent me a website pitch that she had developed. She asked me for feedback, and I just fed it into the synthetic audience. And instead of me giving her feedback, I used, 110 people to give her exactly what she needed. And you can do that with your own content, and that makes whatever you're presenting a lot.
Yeah, some of those are cool. I have found some dangers in that. Marketing has been using personas for a long time. And the problem is, similar to ChatGPT and generic AI, is that it creates a regression to the mean. You start getting average content because you're marketing to the average person in this role, not this specific person in the role. And one of the magic things that you can do with AI is market to the person and not the persona. So I love what you're doing. If that's all the data you have, absolutely, it's better than a generic pitch. But if you can get information on the person, I think that's even more powerful. Earl has his hand up, and I saw that you had a question there about measurement too. Was that the question, Earl?
Yeah, that's correct, Mike. Yeah, the first question was, you mentioned earlier about how you've been using ChatGPT or other AI tools to help improve your stories. My background is in analytics and measurement, so I'm kind of curious, how are you measuring performance?
Yeah, you could probably tell me some better options. I am not the best at measurement because I found in marketing and sales, which is my background, it's pretty obvious when stuff hits. It's not a small micro difference of like, oh, I got 1% more conversion rates on the story.
Yeah.
When I create a winner of a campaign, it's usually 8 to 10 times the responses that I got on other stuff. So most of mine is subjective. Is it better than I could have done myself? Is it better than what we currently have? And keep some easy measurements on it. looking then at like 3 different layers of stuff, which is like the vanity metrics. Did it get more views, more engagements, more click-throughs to the website, looking at conversions. And then obviously the sophisticated one for sales and marketing, I think, is did it get me the ideal clients? Because I can create a viral campaign that gets millions of views and send a bunch of wrong people to my website and end up with clients that I hate working with who don't have enough money. Or I could get one really good click that pays me $100,000 and is the best client I've ever had. Right. So that's how I think about measurement. How about you?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think from my experience and from what you just said, I think that the content that we provide, whether it's a story or any publications that we're producing on any platform, depends on what's the purpose of the content that we're sharing. So some are upper funnel for just on the brand story, getting people interested and aware of what the products and services we offer, to the bottom funnel, like you mentioned, in terms of conversion rate. So I wouldn't say it's a one size fits all. I would say that how I would recommend measuring any kind of content is based on the purpose of the content. Is it to build brand awareness? Is it to drive engagement with the brand? Or is it to drive conversions so you can get those sales leads, so you can get those $100,000 clients that you're looking for? So for me, it depends. I'm a consultant. That's my default answer.
Exactly. Well, that's everything in marketing for sure. I'll tell you, one of my favorites that I included in my LinkedIn book as well is, does it start conversations? Right. Because there's some educational content that like, hey, it's nice to read. I'm glad they did that. And maybe I'll give it a like or something, but I'm not creating a human to human conversation. So I think especially in sales and marketing these days, and when there's so many AI bots and other things out there, we'll talk about other measurement things here in a second. But to finish that thought, human to human conversations is my key metric. Like, is it remarkable? Is somebody leaving a comment? Are they asking a question? Is it making them think? Is it making them reach out? That to me is the gold standard. And then the thing I was going to mention is whenever I'm doing a new campaign, I find that there are waves of impact and feedback responses that I get. The first thing that finds your content is robots. They're out actively scrolling the entire internet.
Spiders and robots. Yep.
Right. The second thing are like employees and competitors, which don't help you either, but they're actively paying attention to the industry. They want to see what their competitors are doing. And so it still doesn't help. The third group is salespeople and people trying to contact you for stuff. And so if you put a form on the internet, you're going to get somebody to offer you office cleaning and stuff like that. And then finally, if you stick with it long enough, you get out towards clients that you know and people that are already paying attention to what you do, like your inner circle people. And then third is that outer orbit of people who didn't know you at all, but they went to a search, they found a piece, they saw something that caught their attention. And it's hard to work through that slog, and it can be frustrating to not get stuck and be like, oh my gosh, I got 1,000 views, but 900 of them came from robot website hits, not actual.
I totally understand. That totally makes sense. From what you described, in terms of what you described, I would filter that as engagement in terms of actual human engagement with the content, whether they're likes, comments, posts, shares, etc. But that makes total sense. So thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else have a question or dive in, comments on any of that?
So, Mike, one thing I'm curious about, because I'll show you what I just found on you, is if you have any favorite tools, like when you mention researching your audience and sometimes specific people you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, are you using major LLMs or are you using any specific ones? I just put you into one of my all-time favorite AI tools that I'm on multiple times a day. And you can see how accurate this is from Happenstance. I'm kind of obsessed with this one, but anyone wants to connect there, I love it. But it does a good job at least surfacing some of your content, things like that, and it gives me some. When I just put Mike Montague, it wasn't that helpful, but when I put Avenue9, then I found the rest. So
Yeah, there happens to be hundreds of Mike Montagues in the world, so I have a
darn
thing. But we talked about this before, David. Names can be tricky.
Yeah, I've got no pity, I think, for anyone else on this call, at least. So maybe a few others, not in this room. I know Jim's got, so we'll answer that one, and then we'll.
Oh yeah, I'll answer that one. Then we'll get Jim's question. Most of the time, it depends on how hard people are to find. My favorite tool is one called Humantech. I talk about it all the time. It is one of those like Crystal Knows, if you've heard about that, where it can predict their personality profile based on the publicly available information on them. So it is awesome where I can actually import that data and enrich the context in my CRM, like HubSpot. And then I've changed campaigns based on their personality style. So if you're a high D personality, I use the DISC one. D personality is somebody that's dominant, direct. They want big picture stuff. They're going to move fast. They make quick decisions. Mm-hmm. I want to write an email that fits all of those criteria. If they're high detail oriented people and they have a different personality, they want stats, they want figures, they want the documented case studies, they want all of the research in the email. And when I changed the campaigns to the 4 different personality styles, we saw 300% increase in conversions to 3,000%, depending on the personality profile. So it was incredible, super fun to play with. And that's where I really got into telling these stories to the person, not my story. So I have to understand my story, but I got to tell it in the way that the other person wants to hear it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, love that. Huh. Jim.
Yeah, I think that's a great kind of level of personalization. But my question was a bit, as you scale your storytelling through AI, and where do you need to put like transparency of labeling AI involvement, supported by AI, if it's in the content side, and I'm not talking about image generation, but the story itself, and when you have kind of transparency of advertising, I don't think we've landed on the level of expectations people have of human communication, AI enabled communication, AI generated communication. You follow the question? What are your thoughts on that?
I have some strong thoughts on this one that may or may not be mainstream for everybody. So take what I have to say and make your own decisions. I think AI is a tool. And so every image I make, I wasn't labeling that I used Photoshop or Adobe, Illustrator to make the image. If it was my idea and I created something, I used a tool for it, I don't feel like I need to label that I also use ChatGPT to do it. I'm partially dyslexic, so I've been using spell check and Grammarly for years. I'm not going to credit Grammarly for editing my book that I wrote, but it was heavily used in writing both books. Now, I do think in larger pieces of content, like a book or something, I do think it's important. If you're in compliance-based industries or you're pulling stats, I think you got to be really careful where those come from and finding the actual attributions to them. But I don't feel like for me, there's any copyright issues. I'm creating original content and I'm going to edit it and I'm going to shape the prompt enough that I'm crafting something with a tool. I'm not just copying somebody else's work. So I'm 99.9% sure that my stuff is original when I post it. But do you have a concern or a use case?
Well, no, I mean, that seems reasonable to me, but maybe I would take it the other way around. Where would I expect something to be transparent as I'm consuming this? Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing I was going to say is that I am not a fan of deepfakes or misleading. So my human first philosophy is very much customer first too, which is if they would feel tricked, if they found out the truth, then I don't think that's fair. So I'm not a fan of AI automated agents for sales or marketing. I know probably some people on this call use them, and that's fine. For me, I don't want somebody to go, hey, Jimmy sent me a message on LinkedIn. Can I talk to Jimmy? And be like, oh no, Jimmy's our AI robot, and we didn't disclose that. And now I have a weird thing, right? So
now you're getting there. I think there's some rule of thumb that I'm just not real clear on, and you're getting into that space.
So for me, I don't like if I'm not going to pretend to be human. I'm not going to replace a human. If I'm using robots, I want it to be clear they're chatting with a chatbot and not a human, or they're chatting with a human. I want them to know. In content creation or marketing and storytelling, I don't think it matters as long as I'm not trying to make a pretend story true. Like, oh, I worked with ABC client and they got these results and that didn't happen. I think those are kind of more just ethical decisions for me. What do you think?
I think people can.
Yeah.
And there was somebody who spoke here a couple of weeks ago who put side by side, I think it was somebody from Google, side by side videos created by humans versus the same list of keyframes or created by some Google tool. And the telltale signs are it's too perfect, or there's some really weird mistakes that are like glaringly obvious. So, and I think younger people are more attuned to that than most of the people on this call because they're sort of growing up with it. So it's not that, disclosure is the issue so much as that it is going to become increasingly harder to trick people when something is created by versus a human.
Ooh, that's a hot take, Lisa. I think it's going to become easier to trick.
No, I think because people's brains are developing too, along with the AI. And my kids who are teenagers can spot like an AI created thing on Instagram from 10,000 miles away. Even when I usually can too, but they get it 100% of the time.
I think that's where I come from too, especially in marketing, is we can all spot a spam email just from like the first 3 letters of the subject line, right? If humans are lazy, they write dumb subject lines that are 1 or 2 words long. And if you see a full sentence in a subject line, it's either like your boss who hasn't learned how to write that in the text area, or it's a spam marketer trying to get your attention in the subject line. So yeah, I agree. All that stuff is very
the weird side effect for me is I've realized, like, especially for stuff I'm putting on LinkedIn lately and elsewhere, I'm editing it less. Just because like that first draft, it feels so much more raw. Yeah. And like if that's how people know it's really me, and that it's like, this is the kind of stuff I don't even have AI looking over, then I'll take it. Like, I'd rather it be like, I mean, I think about this so much with the book, where it's like AI could have written a better book technically. I'm just hoping it's not a book more people would have wanted to read.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing I think is interesting, and did everybody see that last week ChatGPT fixed the M- thing? So now if you tell it not to put M-,
Anne Hanley's going to be,
oh my God,
so disappointed. I've seen her campaigning.
I wrote her back and she replied to me laughing because I put the post that
business. Yeah.
Sure. And I sent it to Anne. Yeah. I was like, you won the war.
So yeah, Mike, I've got 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
The first is, when we follow your 5 steps all the way through, and you sort of got to the end there, but my question, I guess, for you is really twofold. The first is, in terms of how it has fundamentally changed how you would approach the task, you would have approached the task in the past, versus now from a value perspective, not from an efficiency perspective. I know that it's made you faster, it's made it easier for you to do more, but outside of the efficiency play, where is the value that it has created, right? Has it given you the ability to get, so where's the value? It could be the value is in the additional variance you're able to create, right? Maybe it's fundamentally changed how you do segmentation and then how you go to market in terms of how you, the end message that you take to, the end customer. But help me understand the value play here that isn't just an improvement in overall efficiency.
Great. Let's do that and then get your second question, because I think this is a really awesome one. And I haven't quite thought through this, personalization, like you said, is definitely one of mine. The variance, I think, for me is really fun because I like to make stuff and I like to tell stories. So that part is fun. The other part I would say is it's allowed me to make things I couldn't make before. And I think we're going to see a lot more creativity going forward. I can't imagine the storytellers, the people in Hollywood that now like they can make anything. It's really an amazing opportunity to make cooler stuff that wasn't possible. My example for that is in my Playful Humans book here. I had interviewed over 250 experts in like play, positive psychology, people that play for a living. I interviewed everybody from Justin Guarini, who lost the first American Idol to Kelly Clarkson, to like jugglers that were on the Tonight Show and magicians that fooled Penn and Teller.
Wow.
And when I was writing the book, I was trying to figure out like, oh, can I as a human remember all 250 of these interviews and which one is most appropriate for the point I'm trying to make? Like sometimes those things pop into your head and you go, oh, you know what? DC Glenn from Tag Team told me this great story about Whoomp, there it is. And this will fit this chapter. Great. But now I can use AI and say, go analyze all 250 transcripts and tell me the top 5 moments that you think might be most appropriate to the point I'm making. And I think that dramatically increases the value of the book and the story that I'm able to tell. So those are kind of the front end stuff, and the back end is my first 2 answers.
And then the question would then be from an execution standpoint now, right? What does this then mean, right? Let's take it back to advertising. In the past, you'd create 3 bits of creative. What now? You create 100 bits of creative? Is that what this is now? So that you can micro-target different audiences with, sort of different messages potentially, because, you've just gotten greater levels of understanding of what the end customer actually really wants, right? It's fundamentally maybe changed your segmentation.
Right.
Have we gotten there yet? Or is that what's to come next, right? Are we just sort of still working through the first phase of it now?
I would say we're still working through it, and 90% of marketers are not there yet, but the tools are there. There are tools that will change your website based on the person viewing it. And it's not one version or 100 versions. It's a custom version for each person who visits your website. And it's rewriting the text on the page as they get information about who's doing it and what they're viewing. So that technology exists and is available now. Same thing with advertising. There are AI tools, and I've interviewed the people on my podcast, and I can pull up some of these names. I have them bookmarked over here later, David, but that will change the ads, right? Based on who's viewing it and adding additional context or rewriting stuff. And I think we're going to see, you can now make your own version of like the Simpsons and stuff like that. Of like, if you don't like this episode, I think we're going to see a Black Mirror Netflix episode where you're going to be in it, or your city. And like, if you and I watch the same episode, we're going to see different things because everything is going to be a completely custom piece of content. And that's not right for all solutions and all budgets and stuff. So for me, the interesting point, and to go back to your first question, was to me, it makes the strategy a lot more fun, because now I got to decide like, what's a human job? What's an AI job? How could humans and AI make something significantly different? And what's my marketing strategy? Again, in a world where I could make anything, what should I make for whom and to what purpose becomes a much more interesting question than basically up until I think 2 years ago. Our question in marketing is like, what can we afford to create? Right. and what's the coolest way we can make this within our budget and our time allotted? And all of a sudden those two things are eliminated. That changes the game for me.
So one of the things that you mentioned highly, Mike, was the idea of using context for any of the prompting that you're doing for your story creation. And I'm curious, I've seen everybody's an AI expert on LinkedIn apparently these days. So I'm curious, do you have any potential frameworks that you use for your prompt engineering that includes context? Or do you have your own approach that you've developed yourself based on your research and experience?
The short answer is no, probably not. I think I think in my experience in the just marketing expertise, I think I ask better questions than most people. I don't have prompt frameworks, or I have a few things saved. Like when I'm editing a podcast, I know that I'm going to need titles for the podcast. I'm going to need a podcast summary. I'm going to need a YouTube description. I'm going to need a blog post and tag the keywords. And I'm going to need social media posts. I'm going to need ideas for video shorts. And so I have some of those things saved and outlined that I can just walk through that kind of standard operating procedure. But I wouldn't say they're revolutionary. I generally just ask for like what I want. Like the way I think about it is if I had a really smart intern, if I just got like, 140 IQ intern out of Harvard to be my marketing assistant, how would I explain this task to them? And what would I need to do? And then I look, and I think the other thing I probably do differently is argue with AI. So the story I always gave was the M dashes, where I've put in the custom instructions, don't use M dashes. It puts them in anyway. And so I say again in the prompt, can you rewrite that without M dashes? It still had one in there. And I said, just curious, is that an M dash in between, this word and that word? And it says, you're right, M dash. I'll remove those going forward. And I said, did you just troll me with an M dash in your response?
Yes.
And it said, that's correct, M dash again. And I'm like, I swear, I'm not letting this go. But I kind of do that with marketing materials too. So my prompts are probably just more multi-leveled, and I make them smaller, and I iterate more, and I argue until I get what's right. And I subtract context if it starts to drift, or I add context if it starts to water it down.
Sure. I'm looking forward to checking out your book and whatnot, but I think I have a very similar approach. I spoke earlier this summer regarding my approach to AI, and I think that it's not as a tool, like you said. For me, I think it's a team. So I'm training my team what they need. Like as they're a dumb intern, that I need to coach them on how to produce what I'm asking them for. So in the same frame, the same idea, I'm with you 100%. Like I say, we build them, we teach them, we train them, and we're going to get the results that we're looking for. But until we do that, then they're going to be as dumb as an intern.
Yeah. Completely agree. Onboarding is huge for any AI tools, assets, ChatGPT.
Yep.
Yeah, Mike, I love the example you gave about organizing and extracting the most important information from a lot of content. My experience has been that the more, and I do what sort of was inspired by Earl's talk that he just mentioned, and I do a lot of, providing an AI with a lot of information to work with now. But what I find is that the more complex the task, the more likely it is that the AI is going to make a mistake. And as a writer, journalist, book author, part of what you have to do is fact check. So I'm surprised that isn't one of your 5 steps. Like I just did something. I just wrote a LinkedIn post yesterday, and I had AI do the research and said, please cite your sources. And then I checked each sources, and some of them were wrong. So would that be your 6th step, or what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of put that as part of 5, but I did gloss over it. In the kind of B2B marketing that I do, it doesn't come up that often. I was on a podcast yesterday for financial advisors, and they're like, they have legal compliance and stuff. And it's like, if you're quoting numbers or company stock, probably definitely check that out. I found numbers, it messes up more than anything else. I think it's really hard to get context around numbers. So I do check stats and things like that. But the biggest part of my process, Lisa, is the human review of like, I never copy and paste. I never let it publish without a human intervention. So I always make the joke that my philosophy is the human first philosophy, but it's also human last and human in the middle as well. It's just,
me too.
It's got to be reviewed.
Yeah, it's very iterative. I worked as an editor for a long time, and I find that set of skills is very helpful when asking
the metaphor
to produce something.
The metaphor I always use is Tom Cruise Minority Report. Like, you're doing all these things, and there is a human that is actively, dynamically engaged in it, and that's the person you lose your job to, not an AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Adam, do you think there will be pre-crime units within our lifetime? They'll use predictive analytics to know.
Mike, hold on a sec. I've got my precog going here, and it does broach an awkward subject about your cousin Louis and your.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, you don't need to precog like some sort of mythical superhero. I think AI is now predicting crime down to like the corner of
that yard patio door, my friend. We got 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
It's guys, it's actually not fiction. It is actually happening right now, right? Like organizations like Tegna, as an example, that's in the local TV business, are doing exactly what Mike just spoke about in terms of real-time monitoring of, sort of, they have access to sort of all the police call outs. They have access to the logs regarding, the police car get there. Did they leave 2 minutes later? If they left 2 minutes later, then it's a false alarm, right? So all of those signals are actually being brought in and then being used as well to sort of construct stories for journalists and what have you, and then combine it with all of this additional context, combine it with, information from, sort of the local hospital and what have you. Like, all of this is happening right now.
But okay, there's nothing surprising about that. Like, we've had insurance people using actuarial tables for 100 years. Now we
volunteer over the last decade plus.
Exactly. None of this is new. Like, we make it sound very scary and stuff, but it's just predictive modeling at the end of the day.
It is what is new. What is new about it, right, is insurance companies are not necessarily using it in real time to inform us. And we're going into the age where, it's 100% about storytelling and being able to do that in the most expedient way possible. So
No, I disagree with that too. That's been happening since CNN went to the 24-hour news network.
No, but
happening, like, you have Chartbeat that's been doing real-time analytics since 2004. So yeah, that's not.
Earl, I think what's different, what you both, I hope, would agree about, is the way that we can account for the usage of that data has dramatically changed. I'm being very self-serving by saying this, but I start up a company. I was CEO and co-founder of a company where we were commercializing Tim Berners-Lee's research about these accountability systems. And the reason why I mentioned Palantir is we actually published a whole paper about this where we were monitoring Palantir's classification of gang members and stuff. And so, like, the problem, if you remember, with Snowden wasn't just obviously all the ramifications about it, but the FISA court that wanted to do the review of what the NSA compliance folks are doing. His issue was, the judge's issue was, you cannot account for the algorithmic and systematic inferences that you're drawing out of it. So, okay, all the stuff you're talking about, like, we don't have any way to account for the use of the data at scale, and then how you
review that out of the black box. Yeah, the black box.
You need a mutable audit trail.
If we don't know how their algorithms being coded or what prompts they're using, the black box problem, essentially.
Yeah. It's going to get interesting, David.
Yeah. Just a lot of exciting developments that are all kind of happening really, really, really quickly. It's the unlock is substantial.
I agree. I'm an optimist, though. I'm team Robocop.
That's how I picture you, Earl.
Exactly. Dead or alive, you're coming with me with AI with an M dash.
Jim, did you have something that might have gotten lost in the crossfire there?
That's okay. There was a lot of drift. I was just going to come back to something Lisa said about verifying everything. I'm selling this company, and I got this, the LLM delivered this really raving review that, and the context was one company talking about another company, and a company's going to buy this company. I go and check the source, and it's an engineer at the company I'm selling. It was deep. I read it, and ChatGPT had transformed it into this real positive review, the best on the net. It was complete bullshit. I had to take it up.
Yeah, that's prompt engineering, meaning that you need to explicit with whatever AI tool you're using. Do not create any inferences, any hallucinations. You got to train them like an AI. Otherwise, it's going to try the most positive thing. It's on us to be better managers and editors, in my opinion. You can't blame the tech. That's lazy, I think.
Well, that's what was delivered to me, and I just had to edit it out.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, you reminded me of one more. I'll give you one more golden nugget before we wrap up here, because you triggered something in me that I think is important. And in these storytelling things, there is this bias, right? It's wants to give us what we want, and we all know that. So one of the things that I did when I published my Playful Humans book last year, this one, I uploaded the whole thing. And before I put it up on Amazon, I said, if I get a bad review, ChatGPT, if I get a bad review, what is it going to say? Like, I want you to roast my book for me, because I have happy ears. I'm all excited about this thing. I'm going to launch it. And the moment I get a first bad review, I know it's going to hurt my self-esteem. And it started typing it out, and I had to walk away. I stepped back, and I was like, I need to take a deep breath. Am I prepared to read what it just spit out? And I think not enough people are steel manning like their own arguments or red teaming stuff. And like, I do kind of put through and say, rip this apart. Tell me what it is. And when I came back to it and I read it, I thought, this is great. Anybody that said this didn't get the point of the book. It wasn't for them. Like, that's not what I was going for. So I'm fine. And I hit publish, but having it break it apart, make it better. Like, tell me why this deal sucks is a great question. if you're going to, enter the contract up there.
Have you ever explained, to anyone the meaning of the name of your company, number 9, the, transformation and preparation of new beginnings? It's like my daughter was telling me about 1111.
Yeah.
11:11, the angel number. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, Paris Hilton named her company that. But the Avenue9, want to, school us on that? 9th letter of the alphabet, AI built in from start to finish. What does it mean?
Yeah, you found it. So I was trying to come up with a company name that would be generic, that I could pivot in AI enough that it would leave some open avenues for me. So I was trying to find something with AI in it, and Avenue starts with A, and I is the 9th letter of the alphabet. And then I looked in numerology at the number 9, and it stands for humanity, and it's the end of an era, or end of a sequence, and the start of a new beginning.
Cycle, yeah. So
very futuristic, and I was like, this is cool. Also, I feel like people have a plan A and sometimes a plan B, but nobody has like an Avenue 9 to get to success. So this is
now we all have one.
Right? Plan Z, numbers versus letters, but yeah.
In ancient wisdom, they say the 8th reveals the 9th. The 9th is the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was fun. It's been really good for me. Also, I got an 8-character domain name for a .com, so that was a win as well.
That's impressive. You should sit on that.
That's fun. Okay. Thanks for calling on me, David.
Oh, of course. You're always bringing something good. But Mike, like the challenging piece. I've mentioned my favorite. One of my other favorite AI apps now is Rosebud, this journaling app.
What? You didn't tell me.
So it's like this kind of like journaling, a bit of self-help, things like that, and it just analyzes your thoughts a lot. And when I push it to go deeper and challenge me, then it starts getting really fun. And so it's like on its first level, it's got that cape glove there. But yeah, you also, it has to be the kind of thing where there are also some things where like, I probably don't want to hear a counter argument, or like something I've written where I'm like, I don't want it to be roasted. And so I'd rather not, but, maybe something before it goes out to a client or things like that, that I'm
Yeah.
Like I just want to do the best work and I want to anticipate their arguments. So, Mike, before we wrap, like what are best ways for folks to stay in touch with you? I shared the podcast link earlier and your LinkedIn, but like, how do we keep these conversations going? Because there have been a lot of them today, all in this one chat.
Yeah, it's been a fun chat. I appreciate you inviting me on, and hopefully I can come back to a future one. I am an internet marketer, so it's pretty easy to find. You type Mike Montague or Avenue9 and into your favorite AI and see how I'm doing with AEO. Mike Montague, LinkedIn is my preferred platform. The website and everything is Avenue9, but the podcast is really, I think, the fun one for me. The YouTube channel just got over 10,000 subscribers last week, so that was a big milestone. And I've been getting killer guests like David Berkowitz and other AI experts from around the world. So it's been really cool, and I would recommend checking that out if you're into learning more.
And then the dynamic content personalization tool or tools you mentioned.
Yeah, I was just looking that up as well. The ad one, I'm going to put this in the chat as we wrap up here. The ad one, I know I can find.
While you do that, Mike, I want to just thank. I was going to say thanks for everything that you've shared today. It's super, super, super helpful, and it's I'm not a marketer. I'm a product guy. So kind of hearing sort of all these developments is just really insightful. Thanks.
Well, so we also like a range of voices here too, and it's fun where we've had this week and last with Colin Jevons from Nomics, where it's just more open-ended conversation along some themes, and it's fun. Not everyone needs to do the PowerPoint overload, and we could just have some real conversations. And next week we will have a fun little vibe coding competition if anyone's around the day before Thanksgiving. So I'll have an assignment ready, and whether it's something you've done before or haven't, I'll send out just a couple tips on a platform or two to register for if you haven't yet. Most people in the room probably tried something or other that you've liked, which is you can bring your own, but I'll we had this open slot and was like I've been meaning to do this for a while. So and Mike, if there are any other links you want to share after, things like that hit you later, just let me know. I'll make sure to share them with the community. You're always welcome to do so in our Slack. And thank you. I seriously, I looked at the time 20 minutes ago and I'm like, wait, is it 12:40 already? I'm like, are we getting in the home stretch? Because this one flew by. So thank you. And thank you all. I love getting to sit back and see where the sparks go. Have a great rest of your week. If I miss some of you next week, and I sure understand if I do, then have an amazing Thanksgiving. See you in the Slack and everywhere else. But Mike, definitely more to come too. I look forward to keep learning from you.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, David.
Thanks, Mike. I have questions.
Oh,
Cheers. Thank you.
go for it, Earl. Ask your question.
No, I don't want to. I'm very shy. Jim, I'm obviously very shy. Obviously.
You
Working on it.
You're the opposite of shy.
I like to say I'm reserved.
Okay. I go get some lunch.
Yeah, look forward to all the follow-ups.
Take care, David. See you next week.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, everyone.